The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome. You're watching News 9 Live. Our top story, the war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 41st day. Let's take a look at the top developments. Fighting continues at Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. Israeli tanks and soldiers search Al-Shifa hospital compound. Israel's military releases proof of Hamas's weapons at the hospital. UN Security Council adopts resolution calling for humanitarian pause. UN Human Rights Office warns of fuel depletion in Gaza. Israel asks some residents of Khan Yunis to evacuate. 11,500 Palestinians and 1,200 Israelis have been killed so far in the war. Man arrested for crashing a car into the barricade near Israeli embassy. And in some other news, Israeli troops entered Gaza's biggest hospital and were searching its rooms and basement amid global alarm over the fate of thousands of civilians trapped inside. Here's a look.
Israel released a video said to show its troops entering Gaza's biggest hospital, Al-Shifa, on Wednesday. It says Hamas fighters have the beating heart of their operations in a headquarters in tunnels beneath it, and that troops uncovered unspecified weapons and terror infrastructure inside the hospital compound after killing fighters in a clash outside. Hamas denies this. The Israeli army also said there had been no fighting and no friction with civilians, patients or staff. This video, released by the Gaza Health Ministry on Wednesday, but shot in previous days, is said to show the aftermath of a recent Israeli strike on the hospital. Medics are seen trying to evacuate patients from a ward hit by shelling. It also shows the premature babies that Gaza's health ministry now says are being transferred from their incubators to another area in the hospital that still had some electricity. Martin Griffiths is the UN aid chief.
I understand the Israelis' concern for trying to find the leadership of Hamas. That's not our problem. Our problem is protecting the people of Gaza from what's been visited upon them.
Gaza officials say many patients, including 3 newborn babies, died in recent days as a result of Israel's encirclement of the facility. Staff are without power to operate basic medical equipment. Dr. Ahmed El-Mokhalalati spoke to Reuters by phone from inside the hospital. Gunshots could be heard in the background. He said staff were hiding as fighting unfolded outside the hospital overnight and that the Israelis had targeted the hospital directly.
But again, it's totally a scary situation.
Complex and sensitive.
Israeli army spokesperson Daniel Hagari said the army has facilitated wide-scale evacuation of the hospital.
IDF forces are carrying out a precise and targeted operation against Hamas in a specified area in the Shifa hospital.
Israel had given Hamas a 12-hour deadline to stop military activity in the hospital. It said, unfortunately, it did not. This video released by the Israeli army was said to show medical supplies being brought in for those inside. The United States said on Tuesday that its own intelligence supported Israel's conclusions about the presence of a Hamas headquarters at Al-Shifa. Izzat El-Rashek, member of the Hamas political office and media officer, said in a video by the militant group that makes American President Biden a full participant of this occupation and this crime. Israel launched its campaign to annihilate Hamas after it rampaged through Israeli towns on October 7th. About 1,200 people were killed, according to Israel. Since then, Israel has put Gaza under siege. Gaza health officials say more than 11,000 Palestinians are confirmed killed.
Israeli troops found weapons, combat gear and technological equipment in Al-Shifa hospital in the Gaza Strip and are continuing their search of the complex.
At this stage, the forces are sweeping the area, scanning and locating weapons of war and terrorist tunnels. IDF forces continue to operate at this hour in a targeted manner in Shifa Hospital. We launched this operation last night on Shifa, a location that we knew from intelligence held terrorist infrastructure, and now we are deepening the operation. In the hospital, we found weapons, intelligence, military technology, and military equipment. Additionally, an operational command center and technological assets belonging to Hamas. The technology and the materials have been sent to intelligence for inspection and review. Our forces continue to operate inside the hospital in a targeted fashion based on our intelligence to uncover and eliminate terrorist activity in the hospital.
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, the international spokesperson of IDF, recently shared a video from inside Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. The footage reveals significant amounts of Hamas ammunition alongside other military supplies and intelligence documents. Notably, all CCTV cameras within the hospital were deliberately covered with black tape. The ammunition is concerned behind MRI machines and in various chambers throughout the hospital. Here's a look.
Shalom everyone, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan from the IDF here. I am in the Shifa hospital, as you can see from the sign behind me, and as you can clearly see from the building. We are going to do a one-shot video. One shot, no editing, of all of the evidence that we have found just now in this building of the Shifa hospital. So we're inside the MRI center of the Shifa hospital. Israeli troops breached here a few hours ago, and we have cleared the area, make sure that it's safe. And a few of the most interesting things that we have found totally confirm, without any doubt, that Hamas systematically uses hospitals in their military operations in violation of international law. And what we have found, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg. Let me show you a few examples. Security cameras have been obstructed. All of the security cameras are covered, and this isn't the only one. You'll see the rest of them here. Follow me as we go in, and we will see the MRI center and see the weapons that Hamas has hidden inside. This is where patients come in order to get MRI services. We'll proceed into a more secluded area. And the lighting here is out, so we're using flashlights. We're now, as you can see, in an MRI room. I don't know when this was used the last time. But it is definitely an MRI machine. And if you follow me behind the MRI machine, I'll show you what our troops exposed just minutes ago. In military terms, this is a grab bag, grab and go of a Hamas combatant. And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you will be able to see is military equipment. There is an AK-47, there are cartridges, ammo, there are grenades in here, of course uniform, and all of this was hidden very conveniently, secretly behind the MRI machine. On the other side, we found a backpack with what appears to be very important intelligence, including a laptop, and we'll show you that momentarily. Let's go see the next room. So we're still in the MRI center. The backpack was found in here, and it was also hidden behind the MRI machine. As you can see, the rest of the equipment here is proper hospital equipment, right? Bandages and medical gear. It seems as if there's no real shortage because there's a lot of equipment here, but we'll leave that for another discussion. Let's go see weapons and other prohibited items. As we walk through the main corridor here, our troops did a preliminary search of the area. We tried to uncover the cameras, but all of the cameras have been obstructed. You can see there's black tape covering it. And when our troops opened this closet here, which is in the main part of the clinic, this is what they found. These weapons have absolutely no business being inside a hospital. The only reason they're here is because Hamas put them here, because they use this place, like many other hospitals and ambulances and sensitive facilities inside the Gaza Strip, for their illicit military purposes. So there's Kalashnikov rifles here, even ammunition. And let's go see the next part of what we have here. Another MRI machine. Another MRI machine where behind it we also found contraband similar to what you saw in the other areas. And let's go see the last thing, which is more related to intelligence, which I think we will be able to extract quite a lot of interesting intelligence from. If you can see, follow me. Up here on top of a spare part of the MRI department, we found another grab bag. It's empty because we emptied it and cleared it so that we could use and see it. So this is where we found it, and here are the contents of the bag. The contents of the bag are full military kit for one Hamas terrorist. A live grenade, ammunition, fighting vest with insignia, boots, and of course uniforms, and last but not least, standard AK-47. Inside the hospital, hidden in a secluded area, take a look at this door here. Blast-proof door, which is part of the clinic and part of the infrastructure of the hospital. Everything else looks like a hospital, only this part doesn't. Last part. Now we will see something that our intel researchers are looking into. Hold on, before we go on, let's have a look at what we found inside the very same cabinet that houses medical equipment. You can see all kinds of standard military medical stuff. We found another go-to bag, this bag here. And again, we opened it up in order to make sure that it's safe to touch and show. So please don't give me any of that. You opened it up and you placed it there. This is the bag that we found, and this is the stuff that was in it. Now, there's insignia, military insignia, a knife. For those of you who read Arabic, you'll be able to understand what it says here. But it's Hamas, the military wing, Kataib al-Qassam, of course a vest with equipment, and as always, an AK-47, standard gear, grab and go, which they thought would be a good place to store inside a hospital. And the last item, which I'm sure will be very interesting to analyze, is a laptop. We found it in the MRI room. This is how the laptop looks. I don't know who it belonged to, but now it is being analyzed by our intel people. Tactical radio communications, which we will analyze. Lots of disks, which will be analyzed. And a computer, which at first glance already provides a lot of incriminating.
Now let's take a look at the weapons and intelligence equipment the IDF discovered hidden in the Al-Shifa hospital. IDF troops found a number of Hamas weapons and combat gear. IDF discovered piles of weapons behind MRI machines in duffel bags. Weapons include AK-47, automatic rifles, bullets and grenades. Tactical radio communication and a laptop were also discovered. Security cameras in the hospital covered with black tape. Military kits with grenade, ammunition, combat vest, boots and gun. The Israeli army released a video claiming to depict the delivery of aid to Al-Shifa hospital, stating that it was part of their ongoing quote-unquote operation against Hamas. The hospital in Gaza City has been a primary target in the ground operation, with Israeli forces alleging that Hamas operates a key headquarters in tunnels beneath it, a claim denied by Hamas. Troops entered the hospital, conducting searches in rooms and the basement after days of siege, raising global concerns about the safety of trapped civilians. Israel asserted that its forces engaged in a confrontation with fighters outside the hospital, killed some and brought medical supplies for those inside. And in some more news, the Israeli army released footage showing its soldiers carrying out military operations and dismantling Hamas centers and capabilities in Gaza's Al-Shati. Another video displayed Israeli tanks and armored vehicles during a military operation in the refugee camp, cited by IDF as a central Hamas center. Strikes also targeted what Israel claimed were Hamas locations. On 15th of November, the Security Council adopted a resolution calling for urgent and extended humanitarian pauses and corridors throughout the Gaza Strip for a sufficient number of days in order to enable the full, rapid, safe and unhindered humanitarian access. The resolution, drafted by Malta, received 12 votes in favor and 3 abstentions by the United Kingdom, the United States and the Russian Federation.
Yet sadly, this resolution falls on deaf ears when it comes to Hamas and other terrorist organizations. On the 7th of October, savage Hamas terrorists launched a barbaric invasion into Israel, murdering, raping, and brutalizing innocent civilians. Nearly 6 weeks have passed. This council has convened on the matter almost 10 times and still has not succeeded in condemning Hamas's October 7th massacre. The resolution focuses solely on the humanitarian situation in Gaza, yet makes no mention of what led up to this moment.
The Security Council should have called for a ceasefire a long time ago. It should have called for a ceasefire now. It should have heeded the call by the UN and every humanitarian organization on earth calling for a humanitarian ceasefire, including the Secretary General of the United Nations. It should have been convinced that there is no military solution, especially one that relies on the commission of atrocities, and it should have advanced political ones.
Ultimately, the United States could not vote yes on a text that did not condemn Hamas or reaffirm the right of all member states to protect their citizens from terrorist attacks. The Council repeatedly has made clear that we stand against all acts of terror. This horrific attack must be no exception. And the United States will continue to urge this Council to condemn Hamas's actions.
This draft resolution we have in front of us today seeks to offer hope in this dark hour. It aims to ensure a respite from the current nightmare in Gaza and give hope to the families of all victims. It focuses in particular on the plight of children trapped in the war enclave and of those being held hostage. Over the past week, we have held extensive consultations with Council members, interested parties, countries in the region, and humanitarian organizations. We did this in an effort to achieve a balanced and operational text.
US President Joe Biden has made it clear to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that a two-state solution was the only answer to resolve the Israel-Palestinian conflict, and that occupying Gaza would be a big mistake. Biden further added that he is doing everything in his power to free hostages held by the Hamas militant group in Gaza, but that did not mean sending in the US military. Listen in.
I made it clear to the Israelis that to Bibi and to his war cabinet that I think the only ultimate answer here is a two-state solution that's real. We got to get to the point where there is an ability to be able to even talk without worrying about whether or not we're just dealing with, they're dealing with Hamas that's going to engage in the same activities they did over the past, on the 7th. So but I can't tell, I'm not a fortune teller, I can't tell you how long it's going to last. But I can tell you I don't think it ultimately ends until there's a two-state solution. I made it clear to the Israelis, I think it's a big mistake for them to think they're going to occupy Gaza and maintain Gaza. I don't think that works.
Have you communicated to Prime Minister Netanyahu any sort of deadline or time frame for how long you are willing to support Israel in this operation? Are you comfortable with the operation going on indefinitely, and is there any deal underway to free hostages?
With regard to when is this going to stop, I think it's going to stop when Hamas no longer maintains the capacity to murder and abuse and just do horrific things to the Israelis, and they still think that, at least as of this morning, they still thought they could. They've just been straight, and we, as I said, you have a circumstance where the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, hidden under a hospital. And that's a fact, that's what's happened. Israel did not go in with large number of troops, did not raid, did not rush everything down. They've gone in, and they've gone in with their soldiers carrying weapons, their guns.
U.S. public support for Israel's war against Hamas militants in Gaza is eroding, and most Americans think Israel should call a ceasefire to the conflict that has ballooned into a humanitarian crisis, according to a new Reuters Ipsos poll. 32% of the respondents say the U.S. should support Israel when asked what role the United States should take in the fighting. 41% supported U.S. backing Israel in the month of October. 39% said that they approve U.S. being neutral negotiator. In October, only 27% supported U.S. being neutral negotiator. 4% of the respondents said the U.S. should support Palestine. 15%, however, said the U.S. should not be involved at all. Statistics are based on a Reuters Ipsos poll. The video released by Gaza's Ministry of Health on 15th of November and shot at least a day earlier showed medics wheeling patients on stretchers through smoke-filled hallways at the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. On Wednesday, Israeli troops went into Shifa hospital, searching rooms and the basement. According to witnesses, this siege sparked global concern following Israel's claim of a deadly clash at the hospital gates. Here's a look.
The medical teams are taking care of the situation because of the heavy dust. They are suffocating from this dust debris caused by the shell that was fired on the specialities building. So it is a direct targeting of the specialities building. Patients are being evacuated, who were evacuated in the first place from intensive care to the hallways. It is a very difficult and complicated situation. Patients are now being evacuated away from the dust and smoke that caused the suffocation of injured people. Patients are being evacuated with difficulty. Heavy dust is everywhere.
Qatari mediators aim to broker a deal between Hamas and Israel for a 3-day ceasefire. The proposal includes releasing around 50 civilian hostages from Gaza and some Palestinian women and children from Israeli jails. Negotiations are on. This deal would also require Hamas to provide a list of names of the remaining hostages. It would mark the biggest release of hostages held by Hamas since the terrorist group burst over the Gaza border, attacked parts of Israel and took hostages into the Palestinian enclave. Reports observe that Hamas has agreed to the general outlines of this deal, but Israel has not and is still negotiating the details. Following Hamas's 7th October attack, incidents of anti-Semitism rose in France, where a substantial Jewish and Muslim community live. However, an initiative in southern Paris seeks to alleviate tensions by fostering unity between Muslims and Jews. Take a look.
These young people are learning to reassess some of their prejudices in a workshop organized by a group that includes Jews and Muslims and advocates for friendship between the communities. "We are more alike than it seems," reads the sticker on the van. As the participants are underage, we are not showing their faces.
How would you define discrimination?
To treat someone badly because of a supposed characteristic.
What does ageism mean?
To discriminate against someone because of their age. Our initiative was founded to fight against two forms of racism, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. We raise awareness amongst young people in an indirect way. By speaking about discrimination to sensitize them, we make sure they don't fall into the trap of anti-Semitism.
Rabbi Serfati set up the initiative 20 years ago. Today's participants, some of them Muslims, others Christian, say such workshops have opened their eyes.
I always thought that Jewish people were keeping to themselves, also because I didn't know any Jews. I realized that was prejudice and that you shouldn't judge people without knowing them.
I now understand that just because some people in France from different religions aren't getting along right now, it doesn't mean we can't get along here.
In this district, people from different religions do indeed, literally, live side by side, with a synagogue, a church and a mosque right next to each other. The rabbi, imam and local Christian leaders regularly organize joint events. Right after the start of the current conflict between Israel and Hamas, they gathered to mourn the dead together. Their friendship runs deep.
It's only because of Rabbi Serfati's help that we could open our mosque in this street 20 years ago. He called the mayor on our behalf and said, "There is a building available here." The mayor asked him, "Are you not afraid of the Muslims?" Mr. Serfati said, "No, on the contrary, we want them to be close to us so that we can be friends, neighbors and brothers."
The local Jewish, Muslim and Christian congregations have held together despite the current situation in the Middle East. But Rabbi Serfati is deeply worried about the future.
We are wondering about our place in the world. The massive demonstrations in the Muslim world with people yelling, "Death to Jews, death to Israel, Israel assassin." They raise questions for humanity. Will humanity assume its responsibility for the minority of 20 million Jews or not?
He believes his community's example of religious coexistence can show the way so that people elsewhere can learn to share common ground.
A 50-year-old man or thereabouts was arrested after crashing a car into the barricade near the entrance of the Israeli embassy in Tokyo on Thursday, injuring one police officer. According to reports, the area was blocked off and a damaged black car was observed on the scene. Recent global pro-Palestinian demonstrations, including those in Tokyo, have protested Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip. Almost about a month ago, protesters faced off with police outside the Israeli embassy in Tokyo amid the conflict sparked off by Hamas's attacks on southern Israel. And in other international stories, Presidents Joe Biden and Xi Jinping pledged to ease tensions between the US and China at what will be their first in-person meeting in over a year. The discussions cover trade, climate, military actions, and numerous contentious issues such as fentanyl production, conflicts in the South China Sea, Israel-Hamas war, Taiwan, Ukraine, and alleged election interference. Biden emphasized the importance of competition, not escalating into conflict. Reports indicate the talks were direct, with more extensive exchanges compared to their previous meeting.
How did it go, Mr. President?
Joe Biden is expected to request that China use its influence over Iran to try to prevent an escalation of violence in the Middle East in response to the Israel-Hamas war. The president is also expected to bring up alleged Chinese operation to influence elections and human rights concerns. Both leaders were forthright, with Xi urging the US to avoid suppressing or containing China. On a question on whether Biden stuck to his previous statement on Xi being a dictator, the US president said that being head of a communist state, Xi was a dictator.
I'm pleased to announce that after many years of being on hold, we are restarting cooperation between the United States and PRC on counter-narcotics. In 2019, you may remember, China took action to greatly reduce the amount of fentanyl shipped directly from China to the United States. But in the years since that time, the challenge has evolved from finished fentanyl to fentanyl chemical ingredients and pill presses, which are being shipped without control. And by the way, some of these pills are being inserted in other drugs like cocaine. A lot of people are dying. More people in the United States between the ages of 18 and 49 die from fentanyl than from guns, car accidents, or any other cause, period. So today, with this new understanding, we're taking action to significantly reduce the flow of precursor chemicals and pill presses from China to the Western Hemisphere. It's going to save lives, and I appreciate President Xi's commitment on this issue. From China to the United States. But in the years since that time, the challenge has evolved from finished fentanyl to fentanyl chemical ingredients and pill presses, which are being shipped without control. We're reassuming military to military contacts, direct contacts. As a lot of you press know who follow this, that's been cut off, and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct, open, clear, direct communications on a direct basis. Vital miscalculations on either side can cause real trouble with a country like China or any other major country. And so I think we're made real progress there as well. And thirdly, we're going to get our experts together to discuss risk and safety issues associated with artificial intelligence. As many of you who travel with me around the world, almost everywhere I go, every major leader wants to talk about the impact of artificial intelligence. These are tangible steps in the right direction to determine what's useful and what's not useful, what's dangerous and what's acceptable. Moreover, there are evidence of cases that I've made all along. The United States will continue to compete vigorously with the PRC, but will manage that competition responsibly so it doesn't veer into conflict or accidental conflict. And where it's possible, where our interests coincide, we're going to work together like we did on fentanyl. That's what the world expects of us. The rest of the world expects, not just in people in China and the United States, but the rest of the world expects that of us. And that's what the United States is going to be doing.
Rescue operation to save 40 men trapped in an under-construction tunnel in Uttarakhand continued for the 5th consecutive day. Let's take a look at the latest developments about the rescue operations. 40 workers trapped in the tunnel for more than 80 hours now. Workers complain of nausea, minor headaches, anxiety and gastritis. Heavy drilling machine was airlifted for rescue operations. Plan is to use American auger machine to drill through the rubble. 10-hour operation once now, drilling machine is operationalized. Workers continue to protest outside the tunnel. This operation that we were speaking about to save 40 men trapped in under construction tunnel is, like I said, continuing for the 5th day, and the men have been trapped for over 80 hours. And according to the Chief Medical Officer of Uttarkashi, there are some concerns regarding their health, with some workers complaining of nausea, minor headaches, anxiety and gastritis. As for the rescue operation, a heavy drilling machine was airlifted from Delhi to replace the failed equipment which was being used earlier to create a passage for 40 workers trapped in the under construction tunnel which had collapsed 5 days ago. The American auger machine is being put into service amid apprehension by workers at the site on the progress of the rescue operation. The police, SDRF and NDRF are involved in the rescue operation. The IAF has also been placed on standby for aerial support for transporting the rescue equipment. The authorities meanwhile have approached the Thai company that rescued children from a flooded cave in the year 2018 and is consulting with them. The company had rescued 12 boys from a junior football team and their coach, who were trapped for more than 2 weeks in the Tham Luang cave complex. The workers trapped inside the tunnel are labourers hailing from the states of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, as per the District Emergency Operation Centre.
सबसे लगातार संपर्क हो रहा है, खाना, ऑक्सीजन, पानी, सभी व्यवस्थाएं उनके लिए वहाँ पर दी जा रही हैं और सभी संपर्क में हैं, सभी सुरक्षित हैं। चूँकि भारत सरकार के NHIDCL के द्वारा ये काम किया जा रहा था और सुरंग का काम लगभग पूरा होने वाला था, 400 मीटर लगभग सुरंग बची हुई थी और इसको मॉनिटर भी वही लोग कर रहे थे, लेकिन आगे के लिए जितने भी इस प्रकार की सुरंगों का, टनल्स का, क्योंकि हमारे राज्य में बहुत अधिकांश इसकी आवश्यकता भी है और निर्माण कार्य भी हो रहे हैं, हम इन सभी की समीक्षा करेंगे और इनकी समीक्षा के साथ साथ क्योंकि पहले हम सभी शहरों की बेयरिंग कैपेसिटी का भी अध्ययन कर रहे हैं, यही आकलन कर रहे हैं और इसके साथ ये भी करेंगे। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी लगातार स्वयं वहाँ से वो इस बचाव कार्य को देख रहे हैं, लगातार वो समीक्षा भी कर रहे हैं, हम लोगों से जानकारी भी ले रहे हैं और उनके स्तर से, भारत सरकार के स्तर से, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के स्तर से लगातार सभी को निर्देश दिया गया है। इसमें सारी एजेंसियाँ और जो तकनीकी विशेषज्ञ हैं अन्य देशों में भी जो ऐसी कठिन परिस्थितियों में काम करते हैं, वो सारे के सारे जो है इस पूरी घटनाक्रम को और यहाँ से जुड़े।
देखिए, काम चल रहा है, हमें पूरी उम्मीद है, इसीलिए हम सब लोग आए ताकि चीज़ें भेज दी हैं और जितना जल्दी काम शुरू हो, इसी आशा के लिए हम सब लोग देख रहे हैं। अब जगह पे जाके देखेंगे कैसे काम चल रहा है, कैसे नहीं। जियोलॉजी क्या है वो हमें पता नहीं, मशीन लगाई है, इससे पहले भी लगाई थी, वो ठीक तरह से नहीं चली, अब दूसरी मशीन लगाई है, तो अपनी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश चल रही है, देखते हैं क्या उसका प्रोग्रेस क्या है।
Auger machines are used for laying horizontal pipes without digging trenches. Auger machines, initially utilized, failed to achieve the desired outcome. The American auger has now been requisitioned from Delhi. New machine has been brought to the under construction tunnel site. The rescue operation is difficult because of the condition of the soil. The soil at the mishap site is loose. Boring is to be carried out with extreme care in order to prevent a collapse. Well, 40 labourers who've been trapped inside are actually safe and are being provided with food packets. A pressure pipe of 4-inch diameter is inserted to supply dry fruits to trapped workers. Oxygen is also being pumped through empty pipes meant for water supply. And in some election news from back home, BJP National President JP Nadda has released the party's Sankalp Patra for the upcoming elections in Rajasthan. Vasundhara Raje, Union Minister Arun Ram Meghwal were also present at the event in Jaipur. The party's manifesto is claimed to be based on the suggestions of over 1 crore people. BJP had taken suggestions from people through its outreach programs like Akanksha Peti, emails as well as social media platforms.
हमारा मैनिफेस्टो 3 बातों पर केंद्रित है। सबसे पहले कि डेवलपमेंट और विकास का जो मूल प्रिंसिपल है वो है सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, सबका प्रयास। सबको एक दृष्टि से देखना और उनका विकास करना। और दूसरा है गांव, गरीब, वंचित, पीड़ित, शोषित, अनुसूचित जाति, अनुसूचित जनजाति, महिला, युवा, किसान, इनको सशक्तिकरण करना, एम्पावरमेंट करना। ये 2 बातों को ध्यान में रख करके, और तीसरा है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर जोर देना। ये तीनों बातों को लेकर के हमारा मैनिफेस्टो आया है।
Even as Telangana gears up for elections on 30th of November, State President G. Kishan Reddy led a motorcycle rally in Secunderabad constituency. In a public rally, Reddy predicted that Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao would lose in both the constituencies, that is Gajwel as well as Kammareddy, from where he is contesting for the upcoming elections. He also alleged that both the BRS and Congress are conspiring to defeat the BJP candidate in Kammareddy. Germany intends to raise its military assistance to Ukraine from 4 to 8 billion euros next year. This move would surpass NATO's 2% military spending target for the first time. Take a look at this report.
Instead of 4 billion euros, Germany intends to spend 8 billion euros on military support for Ukraine next year. Defence Minister Boris Pistorius announced the doubling on the weekend, just days before the German parliament passes the national budget for 2024. Despite the world's focus on the Israel-Hamas war, he said Russia's war in Ukraine must not be forgotten.
We don't want to find ourselves in a situation next year where we have to go back and ask for more money. So it's an important signal, especially now that the Ukrainians have to keep up their fight while much of the world's attention is being directed towards Israel. It's also a strong signal to Ukraine that we won't abandon them.
Budget negotiations have been more intense than in previous years, with a sluggish economy and multiple crises requiring tight planning. But alarm bells rang in Berlin after the Russian parliament approved a 68% increase in Moscow's defence spending. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Germany has become one of Ukraine's biggest military supporters. The material sent includes tanks, armoured personnel carriers, as well as air defence and missile systems. Some in Parliament hope the plans will send a message to other allies of Ukraine. We are doing a lot. We've done a lot. And of course, our European partners are also called upon to continue and increase their commitment. We have to do this if Ukraine is to succeed. The fact that we are doing even more is also an important signal to our European friends. The increase in military support the governing coalition has now agreed on would make up 2.1% of Germany's GDP and meet NATO's military spending target. Lawmakers still have to sign off on plans to massively expand support to Ukraine, but given the coalition's majority, this is considered a formality.
That's all we have in this bulletin. For all the news and news analysis, keep watching News 9 Live.
Literally every major power in the world is gearing up with its own digital currency. And so is India. But India's